co-teachers in good attendance, I see. So I guess maybe while we're giving it a second, the way I'm switching between cameras and then the picture-in-picture, is through my secondary web camera is from Logitech, and so they have an app that allows you to control picture-in-picture. So you can't do this on a Chromebook unless you have a supplemental camera that you can plug in through USB, at which point you can toggle between different scenes. So I have some presets over here I can change around from what the main view is, and then that just gives me a little bit more control of, like, when you're presenting, instead of having to push full screen presentation, you can do picture-in-picture or side-by-sides. There are other programs that let you do that. One's called OBS, which is used by a lot of people who do streaming or online news. It's a little bit heavier duty of a program, but it's totally free, runs on Macs and PCs. And with that, you can do multiple picture-in-picture. If you had 6 cameras and your computer could handle it, you could have multiple streams. It also records locally, and then you can take that and edit after the fact using whatever software you wish. You can also use OBS to stream live into YouTube, which is how some of the gamers and those people do that kind of thing. But locally, I'm using what's called Logi Capture. All right, let's go with we're all here. So again, if we've never met before, let me shrink myself. Sean Otterspore, I'm a biology teacher over at West Hill. I also teach forensic science, and I'm a TPDL. I mostly now work with the sheltered students. A couple of years back, I finished my master's in TESOL and switched over to working almost primarily with that population of students. And so I've been exploring, like, how can you involve technology in assisting students with language learning and content acquisition. My program, there were 6 of us from multiple schools, and we did our degree over distance learning from West Hill, and we just beamed into Southern each Tuesday. And then, of course, with Corona happening, all those distance learning skills turned out to be quite useful, which who would have ever guessed? Over my shoulder is my iguana. That's her name. I don't name my pets. She has her own name. I just don't know what it is. This is her room, and she's been quite tolerant of me being here, but she is certainly not happy that I've been interrupting her space. If you thought cats didn't want to be socially around people, iguanas like just tolerate you existing, but she's a good girl. So what we'll be doing is we'll be taking a look at Screencastify. How do we capture our screen? How do we capture our webcam? How do we capture just our voice using that software? We'll then use Screencastify to create a video. We'll upload that video to our YouTube account through our StanfordPublicSchools.org. And then we will take that video and bring it into Edpuzzle, where we can embed free response and multiple choice questions into that video. So just like we would in the classroom with the IRE sort of cycle, right? We'd ask a question, students would respond, we evaluate, we move on. We can do the same thing, but just put them into the video itself. So just like you would pause the video, when you watch the video, it'll pause, the question will pop up, and then they'll go from there. Has anyone, just show of hands, have you ever, anyone not used Edpuzzle? Okay. No. Not a problem. So I have one loaded in the background. So I'll play this. Let me get myself out of the way. Oops, other one. The audio should come through. Even if it doesn't, you'll see what's happening. So this is a video that I just found on YouTube from Vox. It's explaining the coronavirus.
Here's the 2019 when health officials in China admitted they had problems, and for some, it turned fatal.
Okay, and then what happens is it pauses. I had embedded this question at this location. Students have a multiple choice. They select what they think the answer might be from the list, and then they can hit submit once they've selected something. If they're not sure as to what the answer might have been, they can click rewatch and it will restart from that section. One option that you can enable in the program is the ability to skip or not skip. So you can tell the Edpuzzle to not allow students to proceed past a question until they've made a selection. So that's how Edpuzzle works. You would hit submit and it would just continue through. On the teacher side, we get a response. It automatically grades as they go through that. So when I look at that, I say, okay, well, why can't I just put my own lessons in there or my own teaching if I wanted to? And so that's what we'll do. Again, if you haven't already, Grid View is a fantastic add-on for Google Meet. Gives you the ability to see your whole class in one shot if you're doing live teaching. And it makes it a little bit easier than having to use the settings in Meet where it gives you like the side view and then it decides who you should see. So that's a free app there. Screencastify is where we're going to head first. So it's just screencastify.com. It's video recording software. So it allows you to capture what's on your screen, your webcam, a combination of the two. You can also do audio only. So if you wanted to add narrations or do like a podcast kind of thing with your kids, you can certainly use Screencastify to do that. The most popular thing is it enables you to do that content thing where you have the main content and then your face in the little lower corner. So you can connect with your kids more. So on your computers, if you have not already, there's plus here, up in your toolbar, hopefully you have the little Screencastify icon. If not, you can just click in a separate tab to Screencastify and you can install that software right now. It takes just a moment. If you click into Screencastify, excellent, it is showing. You get some options, and those options are to record just the browser tab. So that's one tab in your browser. The second one is your whole entire desktop. The example of that is what I'm doing right now. I'm sharing the entire window. So you can see my menus, you can see everything outside of just the program area. And then your other option is to record just your webcam. So if you wanted to do just your face talking to the camera, or if you had a second camera, a separate webcam like I do, and you had that on a tripod somewhere and you're recording yourself at a board, you could use this option. And then again, we can capture that. You have to enable the microphone. By default, it's trying to protect you. Depending on your computer, you might have multiple microphones. So you can select from that. Again, if you're on a Chromebook, it's pretty easy. There's only the one that's built in. And then if you want to include your webcam in that picture, so you get that picture-in-picture look that we have down here, that's how you would enable that. So once you kind of click through and make those allowances, it will let you record. So I'm just going to go through again where the settings are. Once you allow it to use the microphone, you're going to get a pop-up in Chrome that will look like this. Again, allowing access to your screen and allowing access to your camera and microphone. Once you get through that, it will say you're good to go. So once you've gotten that far, all you're going to do is select your options. You can click on the little microphone itself, and that will let you adjust the slider. So if you have one of those microphones that never seems to be loud enough, you can boost the gain here. On the other hand, if your microphone's too close to your face and you're getting a lot of pops and sort of weird mouth noises, you can back the microphone down here at the same spot. All right. So once you've gotten to that point, you'll get the blue record button, and this will allow you to record your screen. Again, if you want that embedded picture in the corner, you would just say embed webcam, and then it'll give you that extra option. The other setting that you would like, particularly on a Chromebook, that you should check before you hit record is over under the hamburger menu in Screencastify. So if you were to click on that and come down to the gear menu, it's going to ask you where do you want to save. And your options are Google Drive or your local hard drive. This is definitely important for the Chromebooks. You want to make sure you're recording to Google Drive. The Chromebooks don't have a large enough hard drive to really store much video, especially with the apps and the other stuff that we already have pre-installed on them. So you want to make sure you're using Google Drive. Even if you're on a regular computer, a laptop, it doesn't hurt to save to Google Drive, especially if you're doing something like a half hour or an hour. That kind of video adds up very quickly. These other notifications down here can be useful. One just alerts you that you're recording in the background. The other one, if you're using the video editor, which is currently a free upgrade for teachers, that is another option there. Have all of you put in for the free upgrade? Yes? Head shaking? Okay, so the free upgrade is, code is CASCOVID. you would do that under your settings. So if I go back one, if you go to my subscription, because I'm logged in with the subscription at the moment, I think for that, the rest of you would say your account. You click in and it will give you the option to like sign up. If you put that coupon code in, it will show zero charge. You don't have to enter any credit cards or any payment, and you'll get 1 year of, I believe now it's 1 year of free unlimited version. Originally it was only to the end of April, but I believe they've extended that. All right, so I'll walk through the normal process of how I would go about doing this, and then we'll leave the time at the end. Okay. So when you make your screen capture, you'll get a window around your screen. There'll be a couple little icons in the bottom corner that let you pause, stop, and there's even a pen tool that lets you annotate on the screen. So while you're recording, you can use like that telestrator and sort of circle the spot on the screen where you want the kids to click, that kind of a thing. Once you've made that recording, it will save to your Google Drive, because that's where we told it to save. And then from there, you can then share. So once you're done in Screencastify, you'll get this menu on your right-hand side. It will give you a couple of options. So one is to share directly from Drive. Sharing from Drive makes sense if you want to give the video file itself to somebody else, maybe a co-teacher. Maybe you use this for your Teacher of the Year video and you need to share it to the committee. That would make sense. For most people, you're actually going to want to use the Publish to YouTube option. And the reason for that is if you use the Share to Classroom option, what happens is it's embedding the file from Google Drive, and then Google Drive will attempt to stream it to the user, but it's doing that through that preview window that pops up like when you open a PDF or a Word file. So you're not really streaming it as much as it's like slowly downloading the file to the kid's computer or phone, whatever they're on. If you embed it in YouTube, you get the benefit of YouTube. So it's going to use the optimized streaming. It's going to use multiple resolutions and sizes. And so it winds up using a lot less data for the students, and it gives them a much better sort of viewing experience because YouTube is baked into iPads and phones and everything else. So it's a much better way of doing it. The other part too is if it's on YouTube, it makes it possible for us to use Edpuzzle, because Edpuzzle, unless you pay for a premium product, you have to click on a video that exists on the internet. So to publish to YouTube, all you would do is you would click on that link for Publish to YouTube. It's going to ask you to add your YouTube channel. And to do that, you're just going to put in your @Stanford Public Schools account. And then it will go through that usual authorization process. The pop-up will say, are you aware that you're sharing information with YouTube? You'll say yes. And then after that, your second option is to make videos public, unlisted. If you are concerned about other people watching your videos, if you're trying to keep it private, basically just your class or just your families or just your school, the easiest way to go about that is just making your video unlisted. Anyone who has the link will be able to watch the video. They don't have to sign in or anything like that. But if a person just goes to YouTube and searches for my name, my unlisted videos don't show up in the results. If a student or somebody else had the link to my YouTube video and they shared it with a friend, that friend can certainly watch the video. If they post it on social media, anybody who gets the link can watch it. But it makes it a little less searchable. So I know there's a lot of teachers who have been a little bit concerned about that, and they wanted to sort of have some control over who is watching their videos and looking at them. So that's the better option for a lot of people, is to make it unlisted. You can always make it public later. The description box is what shows up under the text, the title in YouTube. You can put links there back to other places or to resources. So that would be that. Once you're all set, you would hit upload, and that's going to send your video over to YouTube. Depending on how long that video is, it can take a little bit of time, half hour, an hour, and then YouTube itself has to process it. So that brings us to the second website we're going to use, which is heading over to YouTube itself. So you can go to just regular YouTube, or you can go to studio.youtube.com. And what that will do is bring you over to your video page. So, yep, that's working. So what I have here is just, I'm in YouTube Studio in my school account. And this is a video I uploaded yesterday of myself reading an article from the New York Times. So for my biology classes, again, students are at all different levels of language acquisition. And so what I do is when I post the articles, I then post a video of myself reading them, sort of word for word. And then for the kids who need that, they can follow along. The other benefit to that is YouTube does its automatic closed captioning, which is then also translatable. So the kids can switch the captions from my English into Google's auto translate Spanish or whatever it is that that they want to read it in. It's not the best translation, but it's certainly better than I could provide naturally. So that's another reason that I put the videos into YouTube. And so what's important to me is this link. This is the YouTube link that I would need to then put into Edpuzzle. So I could copy that. This is an unlisted video. I can click over to it real quick here.
New York and Boston pigeons don't mix. The East Coast is made up of 2 pigeon genetic megacities.
Okay, so you get the idea. And so I can take that link, which is the same one up here, or if I went to share and grab the link, I just need that to go over to Edpuzzle. YouTube Studio does give you a basic editor. So you can come in here and you can make some, why not? You can make some basic cuts to your video. You can trim the beginning. You can cut the end, which is usually the awkward part of the video. You can add secondary audio. You can do a few things depending how rated your account is and whether or not you're saying it's applying to students or not. There's some things that you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So anyway, that's the quick editor that's available in YouTube Studio. Again, you can put some titles in the front and you can mess around with music. If you want to add background music, you can pull from the YouTube library and avoid copyright problems. So that's what Studio lets you do. If you want to manually upload a video to YouTube, back up one, you can do that once you're logged in. You can do that from any page within YouTube. You can do that by clicking on Upload Video, and then it's going to give you that sort of classic drag your video file here. You can also go live, which is a whole nother set of lessons. But what that allows you to do is basically like what we're doing with Google Meet, but you could do it to the world. And once you have, they change the number all the time. I think it's once you have a certain number of followers, you can actually go live from your phone. So you could be sort of out in the world and do that mobile go live just directly from your device. We've used this at West Hill as a way to do faculty PD, where we had the presenter in one room, and then we YouTube live. You get a little chat on the side, and then we had teachers in individual classrooms and groups, so that way they could have some more sort of small discussion, send video chat back to us, but not interrupt the presenter. And the other benefit of that is YouTube Live records, just like you can do in Google Meet. And so after we did our live, we then had a recording of that presentation that we could then put in our archive and make available to teachers. So this is another way if you're looking to screen capture. You can't do the desktop through YouTube Live unless you have secondary software, but you can do the camera on your phone. So if you're just recording yourself or yourself at a board or a whiteboard, YouTube Live is another way that you can record for an unlimited amount of time, basically. So I will click out of that. So now that I have my share link, I'm going to jump over to Edpuzzle, and we'll walk through that part. Where'd I go? Yep. So that's YouTube Studio. Now we're going to head over to edpuzzle.com. The important thing to do when signing up is to make sure you tell them that you are a teacher. You can come in as a student as well, but you want to be in there as a teacher. Sign in with your Google button. That brings you to your content page. The way Edpuzzle works is you can steal other people's Edpuzzles. It's not stealing, they're shared. So you can see here there are thousands upon thousands of Edpuzzles that people have already made. They're in multiple languages, all sorts of content. On the left side, you'll see there's already popular groups that work with Edpuzzle. So YouTube, Khan Academy, National Geographic are the ones I spend most of my time in. And from there, you can take somebody else's video. So here, perfect for me, eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells from the amoeba sisters. Who doesn't love the amoeba sisters? So this teacher already made this Edpuzzle with all these wonderful multiple choice questions already embedded. I can then just copy this Edpuzzle and make it my own. Or if I'm like, nope, she did a great job, I can just hit assign and assign it to my own classes without having to make any changes. The results will come to me, not to the other teacher. It just becomes part of my class. Let me make sure. Yep. So
hey, Sean, do you save this syncs to your Google Classroom or no?
So what will happen, I'm going to jump over to my content and back to my pigeon example. So here's that. So what I did was, if you're on content, we want to take the video we just made. So I go to YouTube as my option, and I paste in that URL of my own video. And now my video is loaded up in their editor so we can add questions to it. And I'm just going to cheat and toggle back because I already started this one. So you can see it's sitting here twice. This one has 9 questions that I started already. So now I'm in this, I'm going to go to edit. And so now I'm looking at my video, and I just have pre-prepared questions here. What will happen is it stays in Edpuzzle. When the kids want to do this work, they have to come from your Google Classroom where you post a link. They have to come across to Edpuzzle because Edpuzzle is just doing that tricky thing of it's playing the YouTube video and then overlaying the questions on top of that video. They log in with the Google button just like you. I'll show you what Classroom looks like. You have 2 options. One is to just let the kid to import your Google Classroom rosters directly into Edpuzzle. The other is you can create a classroom in Edpuzzle if you're concerned about privacy or whatever. You can name the student student 1, student 2, student 3, and like get them in that way. That's not really necessary. So what will happen is you'll play the video, and we'll jump ahead. So here's me talking away.
Let's make a prediction. Why is Connecticut keeping the pigeons of New York and Boston apart?
Okay, so it hits that point. So if the kid was doing this worksheet on their own, they would then type into the yellow box. This is a Google Doc that I turned into the video. Here I've added, making sure I'm streaming that. Yep. Here I typed in the same question from the worksheet, and it's in the style of an open-ended question. I have the choice of open-ended question, multiple choice, or I can add what they call a note, where say this was a video explaining a concept and they used a word that's not the same word we use in class. You can pause the video and then you pop up a comment that's like the old pop-up videos on MTV, and it would say whoop, and then it gives your definition or your piece of information. Edpuzzle also allows you to record your own voiceover to an existing YouTube video. So if you found a video out there of a phenomenon, or it's a video showing art or a basketball game, whatever, and you want to coach over that, you can take their YouTube video and then voice over using this voiceover box to control the audio instead of it being the original video's audio. So I've inserted this question. If we're in the edit mode, you get some options. You can make bold. You can stick pictures in there. Again, you're limited to like a portion of the student's screen. So you want to be somewhat aware. You can always preview, but you want to be somewhat aware of the size of the thing you're putting in there. If you put in like 17 multiple choice questions, they're going to have to scroll internally in that window, and it gets complicated. You can also do math type equations if you're doing a math lesson. So you would type your question here. It also gives you the option for feedback. So once they answer the question and they hit submit, whatever's in your feedback is what will pop up on their screen before they continue with the video. So if you want to give them the right answer, depending on the type of question, you can put the feedback there. If this was multiple choice, you can put individual sort of feedback that refers to the individual selected answer. So if A had an error because they subtracted instead of divided, you can say, oh, look at the symbol, you subtracted instead of divided. So that's that feedback option. You don't have to use feedback, but it's there as a possibility. So I've written my question, I hit save, I hit continue. I would then resume playing the video until it gets to a point. Let's see if I can, oh, I just moved that question. That's annoying. You can drag and drop the questions within the timeline itself.
Genomic. A genome is an organism's DNA.
There again. So now I'm using a multiple choice type question. I've selected the correct option when I built the question. So you type the question in the question box. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have as many as you want. You tell it which one is wrong, which one is right. And then again, you can give individual feedback for each of those options. So you can say, nope, wrong. So again, there's another way of taking what could just be a vocabulary section where they fast forward through what you're up to, and you're forcing them to stop every 4 and do something with that information. And so that's the basics of what it is. You can also stack more than one question. Pause myself. You can have more than one question at a location. So I show that here. So if at time code 30 seconds, you can put 4 multiple choice questions, one after another, if you want to do like a whole little content section. So maybe you watch the kids watch for 5 minutes, and then you hit them with 4 or 5 questions, and you can mix and match. So you can have multiple choice followed by a free response, back to a multiple choice, back to another free response. That's up to you. Okay. Once you've built out that entire series of questions and you're happy with what it is, I'll save, I'll have to fix that later. I now have the option to assign. So clicking that assign button in the bottom corner. My classes are already imported for this year. They're from Google Classroom rosters. You can also make the Edpuzzle public and then post that yourself. The classroom integration makes this easier and you don't have to go with the public link. To add your classroom, you would click add class, and you could create a class here, or even easier, import your class directly from Google Classroom. And then it just pulls the rosters across, creates the sections, creates the kids, everything's perfect. And then when they come to Edpuzzle, when they log in, it goes, oh, I see you're a member of Outer Sports class. I see that you also have a math teacher, and it joins them to whoever has Edpuzzle accounts from that location. Then what will happen, I'll go back to assigning. So I'll pick my classes. I want to assign it to these 2 classes. When does it start? When does it due? That's all the usual business that we would do with a class. You can set your times. I will say for Google Classroom, try to avoid 11:59 p.m. as the due time. The reason for that is Google Classroom sends out a notification 24 hours before something is due. And so if you use the default midnight setting, kids are getting notifications at midnight the day before, and they're saying, Mister, why are you waking me up in the middle of the night? Which is a lie. They're all awake at midnight. But they're getting these notifications on their phones, and parents are asking, what's the deal with that? So if you back it up an hour and make it due at 10:59, then at least they're getting their notification at a more reasonable hour. Again, kids can still submit work late in classroom, but by moving that due date back a little bit, you avoid a little of that problem with that. Prevent skipping is like what it sounds. Oh, let me see, I can show off here. So prevent skipping is just like it sounds. It makes it so the student must answer the question before they can proceed to the next question. You can force the closed captioning on. I generally don't do this because it's always hard to know what screen somebody's watching on, and forcing the closed captions can sometimes take up a bunch of the bottom, and then it complicates things. And then the option I have here, because I'm already integrated with Google Classroom, is I have the option to just post to Classroom. I would toggle this. If you know they're on Chromebooks, it doesn't hurt to force the closed captioning. It's just if they're on smaller devices, it can be a little bothersome. Or if the wrong language is showing, so if they can't figure out how to toggle to English or Spanish or whatever it is they need, it can be a distraction from the screen. And if the video has built-in captions, then it's particularly because then the captions are over the captions that are embedded in the video. But it's something just to be aware of. So that's how I would do it here. So you would click on the classes that you would want. If you hit post to classroom, it's going to give you that usual little pop-up that says post to classroom, and then that assignment will be live there. You can always hit later, and then it will save it. What will happen is when the kids watch the video, you go to the grading screen, and there you'll see the names of your class, students from your class. It will show you the videos. These are just videos that are due recently. And if you click into the assignment, it will show you how much they watched and for how long. So I can see they turned this assignment in on time, that they watched on the 14th. They've gotten a 50 out of 100 so far in the questions. This is the auto grading. If I then click into that student, I get the question by question breakdown. So this again is very useful if you know what the questions are. You can see, did this kid rewind that question, 15 times? Like I'll see kids here sometimes, this will say 45 minutes they worked on question 4. And then, I try to look at that question, like what was going on. Or you'll see like, it was a 9-minute video and they did the whole thing in 9 minutes and 50 seconds. Okay, it wasn't very challenging for them. So this student did not rewatch any areas. It says 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So they just played it straight through. Red is bad, green is good, yellow is something I have to address. When you scroll down, it shows you question by question for that student and their score. You can comment to them, but these comments are within Edpuzzle. So they don't comment back to Classroom. The student would have to come back to Edpuzzle to see these questions. So I haven't used that too often. You can override the score. By default, it's 100% credit or 0 credit. If it was a free response and you wanted to give that kid 50% or 75%, you can just click in that box and override that. True, false. And so here at the bottom is the free response that the student wrote. He's a very wordy student, and so he only got half credit. So I gave him partial credit for his answer. And then once you're all set with that, you can then toggle to the next student out of your class. Or if you're in the assignment, so this assignment for me is basically done. If a student submits this work now, when I log into this assignment, I'll see a warning up here at the top of the screen. You have 2 new things to grade, or you have 2 new kids who have submitted. The other big one that is important to know is, say the student says, oh, mister, I rushed. Can I do it again? How can I fix my work? You have to click on the 3-dot menu over here, and you can reset their progress. If you reset their progress, then they're able to go back and they're able to rewatch and re-answer the questions again. Again, if you don't want them to skip, if you want them to watch the video in a linear manner and answer the questions in order, you would turn on prevent skipping over here. And then if I change the due date, I would have the ability to update the assignment on Google Classroom, so it's linked back and forth. And so that is the basics. Let me toggle back here. Worst case, they're here and you toggle your way. What's also nice is it gives you an overall sort of view count for the student and sort of a grade that's internal to you. And you can kind of see progress and engagement, like, yeah, Edwin's not doing his work, but and that's per video, and they can assign up. Once you've created that video, you can reuse it over and over again by basically just assigning it a new, once you've made that assignment, you can't alter it because it's live, but you could always unassign it, make the typo correction or whatever, and then reassign it. But it's a destructive process. And then it stays in your content library. So you can see the videos that are in your personal library, and you can see like I reuse the same sort of videos, made alterations to them over time. You can do different sets of questions, but each time you use a video, it shows up in the library, and then you can just reuse them over and over again. But basically, if you're on Edpuzzle and you just search for anything, Somebody out there has already made videos about this or found the really good video that works on YouTube, and you can just start with theirs, make a copy of it, add your own questions, tweak it, and go from there. So that, I believe, brings us grading, score sheet, this, reset progress. Yep. So that's what I had planned. So now it's certainly up to questions you might have or something you want me to go back over, or time is yours. We've set this up as a place where we can centralize our help files. So right now, a lot of them sit in our shared Google Drives, but we've been building them up and embedding them in this website. So there's all sorts of how-tos that are on here, Google Classroom, YouTube as well. And we're also working on getting Spanish versions of a lot of this stuff. So if you want to work with students, we're putting things that are also student-facing here. Jesse's one of the teachers at West Hill, and he put together a pretty extensive how-to YouTube video that walks through using Studio and publishing and all of that kind of stuff. We've linked that there as well. So that's here. Hopefully, you have access to that. It's available to teachers only when they're logged in. This same information, if you're a little bit more of a manual type person, is available in Google Drive and our shared drives. There's an SPS technology help that's available to every logged in user in Stanford. And those same files are in here in folders. And you can also cheat ahead and sort of look at what some of the stuff that we're working on. Gradebook and all that kind of stuff is all in there in the shared Google Drive. Good. All right. Well, in that case, it's been an enjoyable hour with you folks. And certainly, again, reach out if you have any questions or you get stuck in Edpuzzle somewhere. And otherwise, spread the news with everybody else and embed questions.